Tanya Duffy is an animal rights activist and is the lady I will be interviewing for my documentary.
I am really passionate about animal cruelty. In fact, it's probably one of the biggest priorities in my life. My mom was very active in the humane movement back in the 1970s, so I kind of grew up into it. We lived in the South, and my mom actually got the very first law in the nation passed against bear fighting. And that was actually something that was used for entertainment. So I grew up in it with watching her, be very active, and it was just so natural for me to just always be very vocal and want to be active myself.
The American Humane Association has been around since 1873 and has been protecting animals since 1877 and is still around today. They are one of the main reasons there are laws for protecting animals, and without them, animal cruelty would be a whole lot worse.
Well, of course, I wish animal cruelty didn't exist at all. But the reality is, it does, and we do need steps taken to protect animals. Obviously, I wish things would have started a longer time ago because we would have progressed, faster than we have where we are today. But I think society has to be ready for that change. If we're not ready for it, then it's not going to go anywhere.
When strays are found, they don't get found by a loving home. They are often taken to an animal shelter where they are kept in cages that are too small for them, never finding a proper home.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there has to be a philosophical shift with society to start recognizing that other beings need protection. And a lot of times I use slavery as an example of that, because slavery went on for years and years and years, and it was just accepted by everybody. Even though these people have a different color skin, they aren't like us, or they don't feel emotion like us. And I think the same can be said for animals. Is a lot of people, even still today, sort of look at animals as things. They don't experience emotions or feel pain. And there has to, again, be that philosophical shift to understand. And again, we're learning more about animals and their physiological makeup and their behaviors and how they act when they do have emotions or they do feel pain. And so I think that just becoming more aware had to happen before we start putting protection laws in place for them.
The circus has been around since 1768 and started using animals in the 1830s, but yet no laws have been made against animals being used in the circus, even though many people are protesting against animals being used in the circus, and there's a good reason to protest. All animals in the circus are beaten and trained to act out of their normal behavior, like in this photo. Both of the animals would be attacking right now if they hadn't been trained or if laws were made against animals being in the circus.
Absolutely not. Circuses, I feel animals in circuses have it sometimes the worst. And so many people do not understand why, because, we're just going to see the animals and have, this is a great family outing and a great way to get my children to see these animals, otherwise they wouldn't be able to. But you have to understand that these are wild animals. They are very dangerous animals, and they don't naturally want to do tricks and entertain people. Unfortunately, they are trainable only through intimidation and very violent training sessions. And they start with baby elephants. They are torn away from their mothers when they are very, very young, and they are beaten and whipped, and that is the way that they get these animals to do these things, because they are very, very intimidated. And they use a device called a bull hook, And you can actually see the trainers using that at any performance. And they just keep it really near, especially the elephants. They will even tap them on the sides and along the ears and in the face with the bull hook. It's just a constant reminder that it's there. It's just a big, long, steel pipe, and on the end of it, it's got a sharp edge. And when they do the training on the elephants, they find really, really sensitive areas on the elephant to hurt them with the bull hook, like in between their toes, behind their ears. They will even use it in their genitalia areas.
The bull hook has been used in circuses since the 1830s and is used very often on elephants.
They would never let any of the circus goers see that this is how they're training the animals. And I'd just like to add that a lot of people go, oh, that's not true and you can't prove it. But recently, Ringling Brothers, you might have heard of them, Barnum and Bailey, they were slapped with the largest lawsuit in circus history. It was $270,000 that they're having to pay just for neglect and abuse of the animals. But even though they're paying all this money and this big fine, they are still getting to do these things, still getting to carry on the circus and the training that they do. That's frustrating. They received, let me look up here, Animal Welfare Act. They were charged that they have violations under the Animal Welfare Act. So another thing I'll throw out is they have what's called whistleblowers. And these could be people that work as trainers in Ringling and they quit, and then they will come forward and tell the media about how these animals were treated. And in fact, when Ringling came to Colorado Springs at World Arena 2 years ago, they did have a whistleblower who was actually a security guard for World Arena, who witnessed one of the trainers violently beating one of the elephants that was double shackled. So no threat there, but just beating over and over and over several times an elephant that was backstage about ready to go on to perform. And the problem with, holding the trainers accountable is jurisdiction and laws. There's just not laws that can protect these animals. So, of course, people are like, oh, call the Humane Society in Colorado Springs. But they don't have the jurisdiction or the authority to handle animals like elephants because they deal with dogs and cats. So that's unfortunate. But at least, there is some progress in, being able to find, there's small steps, being able to find some of these circuses. But it is not keeping them from carrying on and using these animals for entertainment.
PETA is an organization that was founded in 1980 and is dedicated to establishing and defending the rights of all animals. The Animal Welfare Act was established in 1966 and makes sure animals are properly cared for. Stricter laws against animal abuse are very important because even with the laws that have been around since the 1870s, people still are very cruel to animals and get away without a fine very often. So if the laws are enforced, more animal cruelty may be stopped completely.
Yes, of course, I do. But I think people have to be ready to enforce those laws until people are willing to accept that animals need to be protected. It's going to be really hard to enforce them. So again, just like slavery, it was a huge process, many, many years before people came to accept them as equals. And even still today, we have racial discrimination problems in society even today. So again, yeah, of course I do wish that laws were put in place beforehand, but they wouldn't do any good until people are willing to put those in place and enforce them.
SeaWorld and other theme parks may seem like a happy place, but there are a lot of animals that are captured and only some are rescued, and many of the animals get sick because they don't have a lot of room to swim, and they don't have a good environment to live in. SeaWorld could be a better place if only it rescued its animals instead of capturing them.